I just called the meeting over. The real meeting. I mean, the regular meeting.
Supervisor Marasco?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes, here.
So roll call.
Right.
I'll do it that way. Trustee McKenzie? Trustee Carabota?
Here.
Trustee Sweeney?
Here.
Highway Commissioner Kazmierczak? Assessor Lena Cry?
Here.
Clerk Giovanni here.
Okay. So I'm going to make a motion for approval of the minutes of the July 24th, 2018 bill pay review. Is there a second? Second. Having a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, for Clerk Giovanni, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Marasco?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes. And now I'm going to make a motion for approval of the minutes of the July 24th, 2018 board meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second, is there any discussion?
Yes, I will be adding, as referenced in the last meeting that we had on July 24th, an amendment to attach to the minutes. As I mentioned, there's motions that was not reflected in the minutes as to what the specificity of was, what the motion was, and it was about providing bonuses instead of, in lieu of salary increases and cost of living adjustments. And had Robert's Rules of Orders been followed, that amendment to the motion would have been included. So I'm attaching my addendum to the minutes.
So you're making a motion to amend to include your attachment?
Yes.
Second.
And is your attachment the memo that you had our attorney do?
No, I'm just submitting this. This is for the record. So
Oh.
it really doesn't have to be
okay.
a vote.
Okay, that's
It's
fine.
just an amendment, but
Oh, all right, so that's fine. Anybody else?
addendum, I should say, not an amendment.
Anybody else? Hearing none, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Marasco?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Subject to the, again, the addendum attached, yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes, attaching the addendum.
All right, now someone who was present needs to do the next line item, number 3. Which references the August 6, 2018 special board meeting where Trustee Jones, Supervisor Morass, Clerk Kielamis could not be present.
Okay, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
To approve the minutes?
Yes.
And having a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Giovanni, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Marasco?
Abstain.
Trustee Jones?
Abstain.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Now, we are up to public participation, and I'm sorry for having you guys all wait. Anybody who's been waiting to speak, and I saw someone raise their hand in the back. Step right up. And just tell us your name.
Hello, my name is Christine Keller. I'm going to be speaking on behalf of the community.
Oh, we need to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
You can bend it actually towards you.
Is that good? Okay. In 2016, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission reported that 13,000 charges of sexual harassment were filed. But given the recent Me Too movement, it is clear that far, far more have gone unreported. As of recent, studies have shown that between 87 to 94% of employees experiencing sexual harassment, like coercive behavior and unwanted physical touching, do not file a formal complaint. This is due to the fear of being fired and or fear of retaliation. This fear is true beyond words, because at least 75% of harassment victims who do not report sexual harassment experience retaliation. Hence, why Kimberly Jones and myself are here today. Taking the above facts and applying it to the national average, This means that at least 1 in 4 women experience sexual harassment in the private and public workspaces. I am here today to not only show my support for Kim Jones, but to also shed light on what I feel needs to be done to prevent such abhorrent behavior like sexual harassment in our local politics, as well as the unethical practices conducted in this case. The process that Kim Jones has had to endure is not only extremely long and painful, but also incredibly disorganized. As I read through the public articles about this case and parts of the report that were released to the public, I was in shock about the unethical process that the Maine Township government institution has allowed for something as serious as sexual harassment. Within the transcripts released to the public, although the reports do feature summaries of what elected officials and township employees reportedly told the investigating attorneys, the report does not include any interview transcripts nor any legally required redactions. There was a meeting scheduled with all of the board members present, including Kim Jones, on August 8th, 2018, to vote on and discuss this report and the contents inside the report. That meeting on August 8th, 2018 is where Kim Jones and David Carabota would have recused themselves due to the matter of legality. However, that meeting did not happen. Instead, was abruptly rescheduled to 2 days prior on August 6, 2018, where only 3 trustees could attend at the time to discuss and cast a vote on the publication of the contents of the sexual harassment report. Kim Jones was not present at the time due to being on family vacation. Those 3 trustees in the rescheduled meeting on August 6, 2018 included Claire McKenzie, Susan Sweeney, and David Carbota, who is the accused in this very case. This meeting where David Carbota casted his vote to publicize the report is not only unethical and a conflict of interest, but also illegal, cited from the Illinois Government Ethics Act. A legislator, or in this case a trustee, should not be voting on his or her findings nor anything in which they have a personal stake. In the report, it was concluded that there wasn't enough evidence to support Ms. Jones's case, and at the end of this report suggested that, quote, Jones and Carbota should not stand next to each other in group photos. I find that statement in that report to not only be dismissive of Kim Jones's case, but also offensive to anybody who chooses to come forward with sexual assault complaints. It is very clear to me that this case was not taken as seriously as it should have been. That statement is incredibly condescending and careless towards Ms. Jones's sensibilities. Sexual harassment is not something to be taken lightly or half-heartedly. As well as the disorganization of this investigation conducted, I find that there are also conflicts of interest with the Ansel Blink law firm, which is who conducted the independent investigation of one of the sexual harassment case against David Carbota. The conflict of interest I see in this case is one of David Carbota's attorneys, Kurt Aspruth, who counseled him in this case.
I gotta give you 1 minute.
Okay, no, that's fine.
That's 5 minutes, isn't it?
So you can.
Kurt Aspruth also works for the Ansel Blink law firm. I find it unethical that the attorney's office that conducted this independent investigation would also give consultation to the defendant in the same case. Due to the conflict of interest, this case has been biased and of that unethical. There have now been 3 unethical and unorganized practices that have happened so far in this case of sexual harassment within local politics. It is unfortunate that Kim Jones, who is a victim of sexual harassment, has had to endure this disorganization of this case. It is yet another sad example of why sexual harassment cases get pushed aside, dismissed, and shoved under the rug. In support of Kim Jones today, I want to ask that this case be reopened and conducted by a different outside law firm for proper independent investigation. As well. its members from sexual harassment. As of now, there is no statewide inspector general that investigates local government ethical complaints. And because of that, there's practically no standard for how a case should and should not be conducted. There are loose and evasive requirements given by the state on what should be done on sexual harassment policies. In December of 2017, the state government required an updated sexual harassment policy from its local governments, which I could not locate the Maine Township's policy online. From how this investigation has been conducted, I would give the Maine Township sexual harassment policy an F rating, as in failure. One of the only ways a member of a local government institution can have their case be heard is by filing a complaint with the Illinois Department of Human Rights and the EEOC. However, complaints on the local government level can get pushed to the back of the list due to the sheer amount of complaints and issues both of those departments handle. The hearing of Kim Jones is not until November of this year, and she filed this complaint on May 25th of 2018. So she has now been forced to wait 6 months until her voice is heard by the EEOC. All during that time, she has been slandered, taken advantage of, and her case has been treated with dismissive behaviors by some of the members of the board and of the Ansel Blake law firm who investigated this case. This case, thus far, has not only been treated carelessly, but certain portions of this investigation have been done unethically and illegally. Some of the conduct seen during this investigation is a huge disappointment and offensive to any woman who's been sexually harassed or assaulted. This is why I'm here today. This is why I support Kim Jones, and this is why I believe her story. #.
Donna Adams.
Hi, my name is Donna Adam, and I live in Des Plaines. I take sexual harassment very seriously. And I guess I would agree with the lady who just spoke that a lot of sexual harassment goes unreported. I myself had 2 attempted rapes when I was in college many, many years ago. And in one of those situations, I really felt that I was going to be killed in that situation because I was fighting so. I actually got out of the situation because I lied and told the person that my roommate knew exactly where I was at the apartment in his house, and that if she would be calling the police if I wasn't home by a certain time, and that was a lie, but I got out of the situation. So I take these things very, very seriously. But another thing that I take very, very seriously is due process. And that is very important to me. And, I refer to a story that has been handed down by the Jewish nation. It's a story that the Jewish nation has handed down, and it's a true story about a situation that had a lack of due process, where a man a king wanted a field that someone had. And this king's wife actually falsely accused the man's name who had the land. His name was Naboth. And he had the land, and it has been in his family for many generations. And he wanted to keep the land, but the king wanted the land from Naboth. So Naboth's wife, so the king's wife lied, and she had some people to falsely accuse Naboth. He had done nothing wrong, but he was put to death because people rushed put him to death, believing the story that was really a lie. And one of the things that really bothers me with some of the movements that are out there now, and with some of the legislatures that we have, who are rushing before and calling for people to step down and calling for things before a due process takes place. And I would encourage all of you to read the story about this man who was falsely accused. And you can find it, maybe you don't believe as I do, that the Bible is the Word of God, but this story comes from 1 Kings 21. And I would encourage you guys to read it and consider that as we think about these things, because sexual harassment, you know, it's a really important issue. I have a daughter who is in college. It's extremely important, but also it's important to protect all of the people that are involved and to have a process of due process, and our forefathers would want that for us. Thank you so much.
I just want to say, we are not for a heart, we are for a mind. Our heart is just the muscle. That's what we have, a mind. And if we're not going to start using our mind, using the heart.
I think everybody wants to hear you. Do you mind?
I'm just trying to tell you people, the mind is the main thing, not the heart. Heart is just the muscle. We cannot judge anything by the heart. We have to process this with the brain. So if we have to spend a lot of money for get the conclusion of this, it doesn't make sense. Absolutely not. A normal environment, if the person then harassed, and other person said it is, and other person said no, take a break, take the vacation. We're not going to pay for it. We don't want to. This is our money. Why would we have to pay for someone who's fighting his for non-fault? Enough of this. Stop it. Let's go to agenda what we really care about. About us. Does anybody care about all of us? Stop it. And this situation is not doing us anything good.
All right, lady in the back.
My name is Mary Jo Marchetta. My sister is Kim Jones, the one who was sexually harassed. She asked the attorneys, the township attorneys, their opinion on how to handle the situation. They advised her to confront Gerber. He is the reason why so much money has been spent, because of his anger and his reaction, not because of my sister, Kim Jones.
Kelly? And don't forget names.
My name is Kelly Schaefer, and I live in Park Ridge, Illinois. And I just want to say that, in my opinion, Kim is a responsible, upstanding, and credible citizen. And since when do we victimize victims? If someone says they've been sexually harassed, probably the right thing to do would not say to go with your accuser into a private office and confront him.
I agree.
Not a great idea. While due process is categorically important. Not victimizing a victim is more important.
Anybody else? Gentleman in the back.
Stephen Yacel, Niles. I have some comments to make first on the budget here. I have it on my phone. I know you're all going to probably tune out of this. But drainage, we have $15,000 to spend on drainage. And Maine Township has a flooding problem, specifically unincorporated Niles behind Best Buy. This has been brought to my attention over a year ago. I haven't seen any action on it. And I am completely exhausted from the constant bickering that I've seen from this board amongst each other for the past year. Like, you guys are supposed to be representing the people of the township. And I've seen Mr. Garabota here on many occasions propose to reduce township spending. And here tonight, you're all demonizing him for increasing it, and you're all here. There's almost nobody here most of the time. I stepped out of this meeting to go to the Niles Village Board meeting. It was already over. Nobody was even there. There were two people that went up to speak. Now think about that, with participation in local government, and now everybody's here because of a personal issue and an accusation that on August 6th, it seemed like there was a conclusion.
The people weren't even here. What's happening?
Sit down. I have 5 minutes to speak, sir. And I'm going to use my whole 5 minutes. And actually, I'd like to use the same amount of time that the other lady used. I don't know if that was, she was even trying for that.
5 minutes.
But we have there's many things that this township could be doing right now. And succeeding at it with the budget and fixing the roads. You know what? I drove out of here about like half an hour ago. Driving down Ballard. You see the sides of the street of Ballard? Is Ballard a permanent road?
Ballard's a state road.
Ballard's a state road. There's potholes everywhere on the sides of it.
Yes, they're all like that. Take it up to state.
Do you have an idea?
This is the most people I've ever seen here.
Okay, guys,
This is the most people. The problem here is that once this whole situation between the trustees here is over, are you still going to be here? Where are you going to just forget about everything? Oh, I'm speaking generally because according to this handout here, rules for public participation. You know, I thought I had freedom of speech here to talk about anything.
You can talk about whatever part of the agenda or non-agenda item you'd like.
5 minutes.
Guys.
Yeah, how long have I been speaking?
Interruption.
I'll use my time to ask how long I've been speaking. You know, this is very rude from the audience to even be saying that.
You have 1 minute, 18 seconds left, but we let someone else go over 3 minutes. So
You can go over.
I take sexual harassment very seriously. But I also know Mr. Carabota very well. And with what the attorney's report showed and what it was repealed the next day, but people still were able to see it, including myself. There was no evidence of it, no physical evidence. And regardless of what side you may be on in this position, there's more important things that the township needs to be taken care of right now. And I mean, I'm absolutely shocked there's this many people here. It astounds me. I mean, how many people go home and watch movies every night? You know what's happening in Hollywood? And how many of you attend church every Sunday? You hear about what happened in Pennsylvania? 30 years of sexual misconduct. Where are all you going and bringing this up on those issues at the state level, at the county level? Well, I'm actually just, I'm frustrated at the behavior of everyone here tonight, and the chance that this board could have been peacefully talking amongst themselves, and everybody had to have a say in it too. But I'm glad you're all here tonight, and I really encourage everybody to continue coming and supporting township issues that need to be taken care of. That's all I have to say.
I live in unincorporated Des Plaines, and not that it's anybody's business, but I am not here because of the sexual harassment issue. I am here because I choose to volunteer in my community, and I am a part of the Neighborhood Watch and also of National Night Out. National Night Out people were invited to be here as 2 of our members were being honored. I am not here to take away or to add to anybody's story about the Me Too movement or what has been going on with the township, but I would like to be noted that everybody's worried about their wives and children, or their wives and daughters, I'm sorry. Men are also able to be sexually harassed, and the numbers of that are very understated because it's very embarrassing for them as well. There is a stigma against talking out when you are sexually harassed, especially for the males more so than the females that do some of the reporting. So I wanted to put it out there that this is not just a female thing, this is an everybody thing. Any one of us can be sexually harassed. It does not discriminate against age, race, disability, anything. Anybody could be sexually harassed. And if things are not being changed, it's because people are not standing up to make those changes. Thank you.
Hi, Cole Moylan, Des Plaines. This goes to Trustee Carabota. First of all, sexual harassment claim was made against you. You wasted taxpayers' dollars. You brought shame to this township. If you had any dignity in yourself, and before you waste any more taxpayers' money, you would step down if you were an honorable man. Thank you.
My husband asks me not to stand up here and say anything. My name is Diane Carabota, and I am his wife. How dare Kim Jones accuse him? How dare she lie? It never happened. Let me speak. Let me speak. We are all adults here. He has a right to defend himself. He has a right to call for an investigation. Please let me speak. I did not shout out when all of you spoke destroying him, okay? I did not speak against you. Let me speak. He has a right to defend himself. He had a right to call for an investigation. This entire board was notified regarding that meeting. They were giving 2-3 dates to appear, and they did not. There was a conclusion. It's online. Read it. You are accusing an innocent man, and I know him. We're married for 32 years. How dare you, Kim Jones, falsely accuse someone? Why? I will tell you why. Because he's fighting to keep the budget down. They want him out. He's here to save the money, our money, Maine Township money. That's why they want him out. That's the reason. That's all I have to say.
Let's find out.
I'm not addressing you right now. Be an adult.
You can do that now.
Okay, guys, anybody who's talking, you guys cannot catcall or interrupt. Let each person, whatever they say, let them say it.
You are also self-absorbed in what you think the focus is because you're not
We need
here.
to get your name.
Linda Slipke explains that because you're not here every day, or every month, you don't see what's really going on. You're confused by what you think is the issue, but it's a distraction. What they're trying to do here is break up these 3 seats who are fighting for your rights. By removing Mr. Carabota, they have more space to do that in. That's what I have to say about what I believe is truly happening here. But what I have to say about all of you is that your behavior is sickening. It's absolutely sickening. You're crucifying an innocent man who's God-fearing, who's active in his community, who I've known for a very long time, who's effective in everything he does, who's always thinking of others before himself. I'm going to read you something, not my words, and I hope that you really think about them, but I doubt you will. Matthew 7:15. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you'll see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Don't crucify an innocent man who's not been found guilty of anything.
Anybody else? All right. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mary Jo Marshall. I understand everyone has their own opinion on this matter. People are upset that so much money has been spent for the attorneys. My sister has been with the township. She's worked hard in her Ridge politics. She is a very respected person. She went to Carabona, Trustee Carabona, to put him on notice to stop touching her. That's all she did. Instead of being a gentleman and apologizing, whether he did or did not, in his opinion, the gentleman would have apologized and it could have ended right there. He is the person who decided to blow this up to this big, huge proportion. So if there's anyone to blame for the money that has been spent, or us all being here for this meeting, it is him. That's all I have to say. My sister is a wonderful person, and I don't appreciate her being victimized.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, Marty Boylan, State Representative. Let's get a couple things clear. What you're witnessing is victim shaming. Mr. Carabota, on 3 different occasions, grabbed the buttocks of Kim Jones. What are we gonna do about it? There's a process, okay? The process, listen, they investigated it themselves, and guess what happened? They found nothing wrong. It was a sham. The attorney does not tell you to go in the back room and confront your accuser. There's a process. Kim Jones did the right thing. Now who are you gonna believe? A guy who's been a known abuser, who also abused 2 other employees, and then shamed them into not getting statements? Come on, people. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't about the budget. This isn't about knocking Dave off the board. This is about common decency. This is about believing Kim. I'm going to tell you something. I believe Kim, and everyone in this room should believe Kim. She's a decent, good, elected official who has a good history of fighting for the citizens of her district in the Maine Township. And when we got Dave, a big bully, you know what happens when bullies get? You got to bully him back and not take it anymore. Dave, we're not going to take it. You should resign now and shaming yourself, and embarrassing the board. Yes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Dave should resign now.
This lady, Ginger, I'm going to respond to you. Good. Hang on.
Mr. Moylan, I call for your resignation. You do not represent us, and you do not represent me. And I hope in this election, the other candidate wins. I vote for Maryland, because you know what? You know what? I'm just wondering about your record. Right. Let's look into your record. Let's see what happened in your past. What happened in your past, Mr. Moylan? Do you want that out? Do you want that out? Okay? So, don't come up here and accuse my husband. It never happened. Kimberly Jones called for the meeting before the vote on the budget. She asked him to go into the room. Before the budget.
Right.
Figure that one out.
That's right. And he brought it to the front on tape. All he had to do was apologize to me.
I am not addressing you. I am addressing the crowd. I am not addressing you, Kim. Okay?
You're talking about me.
Good. Then I hope you're listening. I hope you're listening. How many times
your husband touched my butt 3 times inappropriately?
Really?
Yes.
Really? And what does the report say? How dare you? How many times have you done that to other people? How many times have you done that to other people? How dare you do that? How dare you? He was an innocent man.
He's not insecure about it.
Please.
And neither are you.
All right, Ginger. Okay, Ginger Pennington.
You have no right to call me a liar.
There's a lot of drama going on here. I want to dial this down a little to say, for everyone that's saying, for those that have been either online in private discussions here tonight, accusing Kim of making this all up for political gain and false accusations and all this. For those of us that have read that report carefully, you can, this to me at this point isn't even, we don't need to stand here and argue about he said, she said, he did, he didn't. What the report makes clear is she earnestly felt uncomfortable with what she felt was contact happening. That is her right to voice that, and she did it privately to him, that we can all hear the tape. All right, she felt uncomfortable. You can see from the emails that she sent at the time it was happening and the text at the time it was happening. I feel uncomfortable. She said that to other people in this township government. So this is not some grand scheme where she made up something to tank people on this board. It's being politicized by all parties at this point. But if you go back to the actual documents and read that report that taxpayers were here screaming to see, we can see it now. We can read what happened. We can see those texts. We can see those emails. She earnestly felt uncomfortable. She had a right to bring that up, and she should not be shamed for it. All right. No way of knowing, for everyone that's trying to spin this into some scheme, I've listened to that audio tape, many of you have as well. If you listen to that audio, she had no way of knowing that he was going to turn this around and start screaming at her and demanding an investigation. She said, apparently I'm told on tape, he even admitted, she said she didn't even want to do a formal complaint, she just wanted it to stop. So all this nonsense about how it was all a political scheme and that she's a big liar is victim shaming. She was uncomfortable, she voiced it, she didn't ask for all this.
also on the agenda.
I would just like to make a point that most people who accuse...
Oh, I'm sorry, can you remind me?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Christina Keller, Parkridge, Illinois. I would just like to make a point that most people who are victims of sexual assault and sexual harassment rarely lie about it. And I want to make that so important because it's
Please don't yell. I'm trying to stop the others. Keep going.
It's just very important to note that somebody who is putting their own reputation at risk and putting themselves in a place of torment, which is what this is, you have to understand from their perspective that they're not lying. And I understand the anger that's been going on from all sides. I can see it. There's a lot of angry people right now, and I understand. But it's important to note that, I mean, Kim is not lying about this. This is very clear to me. I've read as much as I possibly could on this case, and it is very, very clear to me that she is not lying. And I really hope that you all can take a point to read everything thoroughly and from both sides, and then make a decision. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for all your input. And now we're going to move to the next part. And this question will be, this issue is also on the agenda in terms of other things that may need to be ordered, but first we need to approve the general assistance expenditures. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the general assistance expenditures.
I make a motion to approve the general assistance.
I made the motion, I just need a second.
Oh, second.
Having a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay, and approval, I'm going to make a motion for approval of road district expenditure. Can I have a second?
Second.
And having a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Giovanni, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moran?
Aye. Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay, and now I'm going to make a motion for approval of general town fund expenditure withholding back invoice number 65695/3, which is the July portion of this harassment bill, which is $10,090. We just received some correspondence with respect to some of the expenditures, and we're going to be discussing ordering transcripts. And so I would like to separate out the issue of the rest of the town funds from that particular bill so that everybody is comfortable with spending that money. And I also would like to make a point that I don't think, the other reason that I want to separate it out, and obviously if it's the attorney's advice, is I don't think that it is appropriate either under a conflict of interest, a real conflict of interest, or a potential conflict of interest, an appearance of impropriety for either Trustee Carabota or Trustee Jones to vote on that. Because if this report is being touted by some people as independent and as the all and end all, then the people who it involves should not be voting on, in my opinion, on the expense. So I am, at this time, going to make a motion. First of all, Trustee Carabota and Trustee Jones, are you both willing to abstain?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Well, we're not having one abstain without the other. So,
Why would you vote on something you're involved in?
Are we at a point of discussion?
okay, so now I'm going to ask the attorney's opinion. And the August 6th, I did ask her opinion. That was a different issue. That was mere publication. This is an action that involves expenditures of money of the taxpayer residents. Is this a different situation?
So the question you're asking me is, can the trustees vote to approve the payment of bills related to this investigation?
Without everything being complete, that is the rest. I'm not asking that it not be ever approved. I'm asking that it be held until we get the rest of the things we need. And I do also think, yes, that is the other question, that I think neither of them should be able to vote on something they have a personal and a financial interest in. Because clearly one has a financial interest in one's reputation.
Okay, there's a lot of laws that are applicable to conflict of interest in Illinois related to different public entities and public officials and to townships. And one of the laws applicable is that you can't have a prohibited interest in contracts. And here, it's not really a contractual issue, so it's not that. And the issue here that they are being asked to vote on is the payment of the bill. With respect to your first question, can they all table this until later on the agenda after everything else has been discussed? Certainly, everybody can vote to table that. But with respect to the conflict laws as they have evolved in Illinois, have to do with you don't want people to vote on things that they have a personal interest in. The payment of a legal fee for a township investigation isn't something that either of them has a legal interest in, although they were discussed in it, or they were the subject of it. That would be like saying, well, people, then there are always times in minutes where people are quoted saying different things, yet trustees can always vote to approve minutes even though their comments are in it. So you don't have to be that far removed from it. This isn't an instance, for example, where someone is petitioning the township for some kind of zoning relief for their house, and they would need to then abstain for that, or contract with their own business. It's not that kind of thing. So no, I don't believe either of them have a conflict in it. And what I did research this issue previously because there is a state law applicable to state legislators. And the law in Illinois does not go that far to extend any kind of vote related to that to township officials. If they want to voluntarily abstain, they can, but they do not have a legal or ethical obligation to abstain on the payment of the bill, just like they did not on the release of a public record.
So you're saying that it would be a conflict for state legislatures, but because the local government ethics act, they're trustees and not legislators, that it wouldn't?
No, that's not what I'm saying. There are different laws. I'm saying there's different laws applicable to the General Assembly. You did previously forward me a law that was applicable to the General Assembly, but it didn't have anything to do with payment of bills.
And I just respectfully do disagree that it is a contract. It's a contract with our legal firm, and everybody's expressed all of these ideas about how we're using all this money. So I also think under appearance of impropriety, even if not technically falling under what an actual conflict of interest might be, that is my request. And obviously, it has to apply to both. It can't apply to one and not the other. So that is all the more reason, in my opinion, to defer invoice number 65695/3 so that we can finish getting everything we need. So the motion I'm going to make is to approve general town fund expenditures and Hansel Link expenditures and delay, with the exception at this time of invoice number 65695/3. Do I have a second?
Second.
Move to amend.
Having a motion and a second.
What's your amendment?
My amendment is to delete from that motion reference to non-payment of invoice number 65695-3. So all invoices are paid.
So, now, back to your original amended legal motion with respect to Susan Sweeney requesting you to do a memo on motion to amend. My understanding from your previous legal advice and that memo, someone else cannot amend my motion.
They're making a separate amendment.
No, he's amending my motion.
You can amend a motion, and that gets voted on first. That's what Robert's rules is. That's why I wrote the addendum
I
specifying.
know I
Robert's
do wrote
rules.
your addendum, but I also have her legal opinion.
That's what my legal opinion says, though.
But when we had our vote for the budget raises, you said someone else cannot amend the original maker's motion.
There wasn't a second to that motion.
Yes, there was. There was.
Yes, there was.
Yes, Dave Caraboda seconded.
Okay.
He tried to second it. It was stopped.
I tried.
Said
They
we're not
can amend a
going to
motion
amend it.
under the rules, but they have the ability to do that.
Okay, well,
And
that's different.
also our attorneys clarified that for us very well.
That is different from the legal advice about the same issue from May. And is there
That is correct, Laura, which is why we need to start following Robert's rules.
That's what we
Motion
asked.
amend is.
I don't want to lecture. I want to have a discussion on the current motion to amend. And you made a motion to amend, or Dave did, and you seconded, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there discussion? And I've made my statement very clear. I think that there's, based on their meeting of August 6th that was held at a time that they had knowledge that none of us could be here, advanced knowledge. I was in the hospital, and Kim was out of town, and Pete Gialamas was doing National Night Out for the young kids you just saw. And you had very animated people, making very animated comments. Many of those people had comments along the lines of that they had a problem with this investigation, including the head of the Supreme Court Committee on Professionalism, Reardon, the head of the Vice President of the Library Board, that many documents should be opened up, and so I think that there's things missing that I don't believe our attorneys are unwilling to provide. They provided me at 5:15 because we've had so many things going on, and there's other things on the agenda. So, for all those reasons, in my portion of this discussion, I truly think that and you've heard over and over from all the people who spoke on Mr. Carabota's behalf, and Mr. Caraboda himself about the budget, about legal, about bills and cost. So I think it would be best if we made sure, and one example that I'm speaking of is only one transcript was ordered. There was no cost reason in the report to do so. There was no reason such as clarification, or it was just attached. And yet we did pay court reporter fees that in the 2 months with the court reporter fees totaled approximately $3,000, and we got individual invoices today, so that was one question. And that's why I had started making plans for an August 8th meeting so that the attorneys could be here, so that everybody could be here, so that it would be transparent. These are the guide words of these people: open, honest, and transparent. So, to release this report, not any consideration for redactions of witnesses' names, emails, anything, I thought was not a good thing. And so for all those reasons, I really urge my fellow board that there is no harm in delaying this 2 weeks. Because I do plan to hold a special board meeting for just this issue. Once after we talk about the rest of these issues, because I don't think we should do it in the context of 100 other things on the agenda.
The payment of the bill?
The entire thing. You know, if they vote to order the transcripts, that will take 2 weeks.
Okay.
And we have FOIAs. I mean, we're not up to that, so that's why, I mean, we'll pay interest. We've always been good for it.
Can we call the vote?
Okay. Well, I just want to finish. So I thought that was the best compromise. That, I'm not saying to deny it. I'm saying that we should have everything that we paid for and understand why court reporters were used if we weren't going to have transcripts out of it. That's just one issue. So, Trustee McKenzie.
I just want to say that, well, first for the record, I do not condone sexual harassment. I am a professional woman. I have been a professional for 36 years. My first career was in public accounting. Back in the 80s, when there were no females in public accounting, I was one of five women in the entire Price Waterhouse, a public accounting firm, very large, one of five in the entire Midwest area that was a tax manager at that time. In addition, I am an equity partner at my law firm, and I hire women, and I represent women. I hire lots of professional and staff people that are women. I support women in the workplace. I support women in other professional venues. And to say that I condone sexual harassment is just not correct. So I want to make sure that people understand that even if I don't speak out, that doesn't mean that I condone it. That means that I was waiting for an investigation that we all, this whole board, asked for. We voted on it. We agreed on it.
We did not vote on it.
No, I didn't.
We didn't vote. There is no.
We sat in that room. We did not.
We did not vote.
No, we didn't.
There was no.
Okay, well, it didn't just happen.
Yes, it did.
Okay, let me just finish. You have said all these things about the special board meeting that was called for on August 6th that are not true. You never
wasn't even invited.
Excuse me.
I wasn't even invited to the meeting.
Look, the meeting notice was put out.
No,
and
it wasn't.
I
was
you were
never
out of town.
included on the email. I was not invited to the email, to the meeting.
You were on vacation.
No, I wasn't. Well, what's the
Anyway.
difference? I still wasn't invited.
But what happened with the setting of the special meeting so that the record is very clear and correct. We received the Ansel Blink investigative report on Monday. I believe it was July 30th. And I asked for the report to be put on the website almost immediately. I was told that we would have to have a meeting. I don't understand why, because there are lots of things that are put on the website with no meetings. That's a topic for another day. Put that on the agenda for another time. But Tuesday I asked for the report to be released. Wednesday I asked for the report to be released.
And I told you I was calling a special meeting.
Excuse me.
I have emails.
Yeah, I do too, Laura.
And I think they should be released.
Okay, here's the facts. I asked for a special meeting as soon as possible, which was the Monday, August 6th, which would be a whole week after receiving that report. And I kept saying, we need the public to see the report that they paid so much money for. the report, that so many leaks happened to the press, leaks from all other people, I don't know where, but the record had to be set straight. The report, we spent a lot of money on this investigative report, and there was no meeting called for August 8th. The only meeting called was August 6th. You could check the records, you could check the public hearing, you could check the newspapers. There's only one meeting, one special board meeting, and it was August 6th. That's it. Okay, there was never a meeting called for August 8th. That is just not correct. The second thing is, you know, there has been a lot of talk about conflict of interest. There is absolutely nothing other than what you see in the board minutes for August 6th meeting, other than voting on whether or not the public should see that investigative report. The whole thing. That's the only thing that happened that night. There was no discussion, because there was no discussion about if it was findings, conclusions. This is so rude. This is so rude. I am not getting
Everybody's gonna get a turn to talk. Continue.
Anyway, that is the only purpose for that August 6th meeting. It is clear. It's in the minutes. That was what the agenda said, and that's the only thing that happened. That is it.
Okay, so on August, we did get the report on Monday, and I got emails from Trustee McKenzie and Trustee Sweeney. And this is one of the reasons I put these emails on the agenda. I want it all released. Because I want the public to have the full story. And so on Tuesday, Trustee McKenzie had requested to put it on the website. I said, no, it needs a vote. There needs to be redactions. There were personal email addresses. There were witnesses who were not board officials, who were not elected officials, who did not give up their privacy to get noticed and summoned by the attorney. So I believed, as so did the attorney, that it did require a special board meeting. And then I got an email from Trustee McKenzie asking me if I wanted to call it, or if I wanted Trustee McKenzie or Trustee Sweeney to call it. I said I was going to call it. I have the email, and it will be released. I said I was going to call it, but I was trying to arrange a date convenient to everybody. Several dates were thrown out. Susan Sweeney went as far as August 13th. Trustee McKenzie was going to be out of town the following week. Everybody came up. And the attorneys were not available. I had thrown out the 8th, the 9th, 13th, 14th. Trustee McKenzie was not available on the 14th. Trustee Sweeney wanted the weekend. It was too soon notice for the weekend. We have all those emails. I'm not done. And so I said the August 8th. And the next thing I know, and at the same time, our attorney was sending Trustee McKenzie and Trustee Sweeney emails saying, you know, hang on, Laura is calling a special meeting. You guys should coordinate. And then, as I literally, and it says it right in the email, that I was literally typing up the words to pick August 8th, the time when, not just me, I was in the hospital. I mean, if they want to see my hospital records, that's fine. I'll produce them. You know, there were so many people at that board meeting that, you know, said we deliberately missed this meeting. This was crazy. So why would I want to miss the meeting that I was calling? And but I wanted it to be fair. You know, how dare you have a board meeting with the accused and without the complainant? I think that's just fundamentally unfair. We had waited almost from May 22nd until August 2nd, which, by the way, I had better things to do. It was my birthday, but that's irrelevant. But so from May 22nd to August 2nd, to wait 2 more days for a full and fair public hearing where all these issues could be addressed, I think is absolutely outrageous that they did not do that. And finally, our own attorney wrote an email saying, ladies, you may want to give strong consideration. In my experience, I like to treat other people as I want to be treated. And originally, the agenda for the special meeting that they had requested be prepared, as I said, if you want to do a duplicative meeting, go ahead, but I see no reason to do that. On August 6th, the agenda provided for a closed session so that there could be discussion of redaction of email addresses, which I ultimately had to be responsible to redact, and of discussing whether it was necessary to ask employees who had not volunteered to have their name in this report or publicized. And that's what really happened. So I find that completely disingenuous that this report had to get online. And one of the questions I had, I'll just tell you now, is I thought we had paid for the transcripts of everybody. So why would we only have one? And why would it only be the person who complained? To me, that was double harassment. I wanted to express those things at a public meeting. And so that didn't happen. And so they got their own meeting, August 6th. Unfortunately, the next time we could do this is today. And there's a ton of stuff on this agenda. So that's what I have to say, and we're gonna be reaching, how to deal with FOIAs. Oh, and not to mention, one final thing. The public has expressed a tremendous interest in A, the rest of these transcripts, and B, the email. I have 10 FOIAs pending, or 10 FOIAs that were done over the space of the last few weeks. Currently, there's several with respect to emails. There's one from the League of Women Voters that wants emails with how the August 6th meeting was set up. So, that's why that's on the agenda. And that's what I have to say. And that's why I think that in the interest of fairness and appearance of propriety, that neither one of them should vote on this bill. And I don't think it can hurt to wait a week, 2 weeks, to pay just that portion of the bill. That's my motion. So, Trustee McKenzie.
Just to get back to the bill, I don't understand the connection between all the things that you just talked about and the payment of a legal bill that we've received, we've all reviewed, and we received those services.
Well, I just received there was numerous correspondence that I had not been privy to. If the board's compliant, the board should be privy to it.
I still don't understand what that has to do with paying.
Why would I want to pay a bill till I got that correspondence and you all got it? So that's something you paid for. So Trustee Sweeney had 14 interactions with the attorneys. And in the same month that Trustee Jones had 4. And so I think everybody's correspondence.
Maybe 14 were all in the course of like an hour.
Why were you contacting them?
No, it's not actually the case.
First of all, I concur with,
I'm not. So the point is, it's the transparency. You people spent a lot of time at the August 6th about transparency. A lot of time on the block about transparency.
Meeting was 24 minutes.
Yeah, and a lot about transparency. And so I don't know why we don't want to be transparent. Fully.
That was the purpose of the meeting on August 6th, was to be transparent.
By
There was
not
another
having
meeting
the
on
rest of the
August
board
8th.
here.
I concur with what trustee McKenzie and trustee Carabota has said. There was never a meeting scheduled on August 8th. I came back from
Technically, I
vacation.
didn't have time.
I actually called the special meeting and came back from vacation specifically to hold this meeting. Why? Because the public was demanding that we release the report. We waited 2 months, it's your money, it's your report. It does not belong to us as trustees to hold it for more than what the time we did, which was a week. He was exonerated in the report, and if it...
There was closed meeting, wait a minute.
This is not a legal opinion, but it was an investigative report. So if you read the report, I don't think that he was found guilty.
It was there was no people there.
So the point was, we were doing our duty, and due process had taken place, and we released a report because people wanted it. I'm not gonna be-
Stores for
That-
all the
that
people
was-
that
that was
were
the
here
point.
at that meeting.
So if
Behind
people
it,
are
that's
disappointed that we were transparent and released that,
What transparent?
The meeting was not closed, you don't know what you're talking about.
the meeting was an open meeting, and I will, please, I'm not finished, please. This meeting, technically speaking, did not even need to take, excuse me, this meeting, technically speaking, did not even need to take place. Because what happened was, if 3 or more of us, which is a quorum on the board, were represented as a board, you can break attorney-client privilege, we're the client, so we could release the meeting.
You can't vote
We
via
could have
email,
released
are you-
the actual report without a formal meeting, but we did it the right way, through a meeting, so that we would have, if people chose to come, they could come and make a comment. But we released the report. The intention wasn't to debate the outcome and to debate what happened in the investigative report. It was simply to present it. That's all that we were doing. And, you know, you saw social media spin out of control with Park Ridge homeowners site and whatnot, so we were responding to people.
All right, trustee Jones.
Well, you're right, you are a quorum, and that's why you should vote as a quorum to release all the transcripts. That's why, as a quorum, as you say, to be transparent, you should vote to release the audio tape of the May 22nd meeting, where clearly trustee Carabota is the only one that called for the investigation. So, as a board, because you're so transparent, you should do the right thing and vote to release all of the transcripts so that everybody has a transparent view of the entire picture. And by the way, trustee Carabota was not exonerated. He was not exonerated. It was inconclusive.
So at 5 to 10, can we have a vote on
One
this?
second.
Yeah, the motion that is pending is a motion to approve the general town expenditures. That's the.
And it's seconded, and now, take a vote, the motion to amend.
Yeah, that's what the motion to amend.
Okay. Are you calling the question, is that what you're doing? Okay.
The motion to amend.
No, we already got through motion to amend. It's calling the question.
That's what it's
Whatever
called.
we're doing in order to get the
It's
vote.
the amendment.
Yes.
We're voting on the amendment.
Okay. Clerk Jalamas?
Supervisor Moran?
No.
Trustee Jones?
No.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay, now we're going to move to old business discussion, questions about the attorney's report on transcripts, FOIA requests, requesting.
Point of order, you need to vote on the motion. Out of order.
Thank
We
you.
did vote. We just did that.
We voted on the amendment.
Yeah.
So,
So
When the motion is amended, you have to vote on the amendment.
we did.
It was.
should we just,
You want to just vote?
yeah, that's because I see the point.
Okay, so then, motion to approve the general town fund expenditures. Does someone want to make that motion?
Right.
That would be
Make a
nice.
motion.
Right, that was the amendment.
Second.
That's what I was under the interpretation.
Let's call the roll.
Okay. Supervisor Moran?
No.
Trustee Jones?
No.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay, so, now, for old business, I I'm going to discuss ordering the transcripts of the rest of the witnesses in this report, as well as how to deal with FOIA requests. Obviously, with the board as the client, emails are typically attorney-client privilege unless the privilege doesn't exist or it is the board votes to waive it. And since we have these FOIAs, those are the things I wanted to discuss. So, originally, we had been told that the estimate for these transcripts, I have an email from Trustee McKenzie, that it was $7,000. I don't know if that's what you were told by the attorneys. In any event, we both got clarification today, and it is not that. It is, some of the reporters are out of town. Some of these witnesses are very short. The 3 court reporters who could give estimates were those of Trustee Carmona, myself, and one other person. But anyways, it was an average of $300 a person. So I would like to have all transcripts in order because I think that makes the first of all, we can answer the FOIAs. I do not, for those of you who might be concerned about an additional $3,000 of expense, I'm going to tell you this, that this should be finished out, this should be addressed. Secondly, the amount of money that we would spend in having to deal with public access complaint appeals is going to be far exceeding because we have numerous FOIAs requesting the transcript. So, in my opinion, not only is it the right thing to do, but it's also the economical thing to do. Thank you. So, I'm going to make a motion that we, as a board, commit ourselves to transparency in this matter and order the outstanding transcripts. May I have a second? Second. Having a motion in a second, is there any? Yes. Is there any?
I would like to have a question for Carrie Lynn. I know you were not the attorney on the case, but I mean, as far as your recommendation as it pertains to transcripts, I mean, there was a reason why you didn't order the other transcripts. Can you comment, initially, can you comment for us why, if you think this is necessary or not, and why, or why not?
Well, as far as the original legal report, the attorneys wanted to make sure that the alleged victim and the complainant had the full ability to have her story made public. So that's why they ordered that transcript. They didn't, I mean, they took notes on everybody else's interviews. They didn't feel they needed it for the report. But if the board wants to order the...
Oh, you just reminded me of something.
...for that, then, I mean, there's not, I mean, there's no reason. We just didn't think we needed to incur that expense to produce the report.
So we had spent $3,000 in court reporter appearance fees, and so the court reporter transcripts cost $3,000. But my point was, there's mistakes. I have mistakes in the summary of mine. There's been mistakes reported to me by other board members, Clerk Kilamis, Assessor Marlon Craig, Highway Commissioner Kaz Merchuk, and there's factual mistakes in the body of the report, which I would go into at a time that we actually have these transcripts. But, the notable one, the audio tape, that's the bill pay audio tape, is referenced as being in a private room. It's not in a private room. It's out here in public. It was FOIA. And I believe Carrie Lynn and I had a conversation about that. I think they intended to correct that. It wasn't corrected. And then there's another very notable mistake, which in discussing the analysis of the January 23rd board photo, that was one of the complaints. the actual recitation and in the analysis, it was written that at all times you could see trustee Carabota's hands in front of him. And that's just flat out not the case.
I don't know why we're getting into all this. I mean,
No, this is
understand.
my,
Why don't we just?
I was asking Carrie Lynn, and I
Outside the question.
I wasn't finished because I was asking Carrie Lynn, I was not addressing it to you, Laura.
Okay, but my point is there's mistakes, so that's.
What you perceive as mistakes.
I know what I said.
Just like when you told the press that I have conflict of interest voting on August 6th, when our attorney said I did not.
Well, where is that conversation? It's not reflected.
That was in the public meeting on August 6th.
No, there's nowhere in the public meeting. So you must have had a private
I'm
conversation.
saying that you telling the press that I had a conflict of interest in voting was not correct. I just want to call the vote.
Okay.
I don't care what you want to
Carrie Lynn,
do
is
right
the
now.
investigation is technically closed, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, in your opinion, under what condition would this be acceptable to pay with taxpayer money?
Well, I mean, that's not a legal question, it's a policy decision of the board as to whether or not the board wants to make those records public. We didn't order them because we didn't feel we needed them to conclude the legal investigation. We didn't, I
At
mean,
the time, you thought that was
normally-
unnecessary and it was just an extra expense.
Right, and normally we wouldn't incur a cost that we didn't think was necessary. If the board wants to order them for transparency reasons or whatever, yes.
So do you agree with Laura's assertions that there's many,
I said there's mistakes in mine.
Frankly, I think it would be helpful for the township to order them so that, because sometimes I don't think people remember what they said. And so I think that people might think that there are mistakes that aren't mistakes if they actually see what they said in the transcript. So it might be helpful to have them just for that reason.
okay,
So let's do
let's
it.
take a vote.
Well, I'd like to say one thing. Just ordering mine and posting it on the website is further victimizing me. That was a further way to shame me, to embarrass me. My personal stuff, I understand I'm a public official, but just ordering my transcript was another act of retaliation and a way to shame me, the victim. And I think
You're
that
saying
all the
that Charlie
transcripts...
shamed you now?
I'm
Just
saying
ordering-
that you did.
You never ordered anything.
And no, the transcripts
Let's be
were...
clear to the public.
Wait, Susan, I'm speaking. Why would you have to call the attorney 14 times?
I didn't call
In
the
between.
attorney
Yes, it's,
14
oh, we have
times.
records.
I didn't call
Yeah,
the attorney
yes, you
14
did.
times.
You contacted her 14 times.
Yeah, that's why we're
Stop.
not-
I'm talking.
That's why we need to-
I am
so
talking.
frugal with the
I'm
time.
talking. You called 14 times. You billed me to the, yes, there's bills. Excuse me, I'm talking.
We'll go over to your left.
We have
There we go.
bills. So, let me finish. I'm talking. It's my turn. I have the floor.
You're accusing.
I have, no, there's 14 contacts that you made. You weren't, I never confided in you. You never saw anything. You didn't know anything about the sexual harassment charge. You testified, you had nothing to say, and yet you had 14 occasions to call the attorney after your deposition? Why?
No,
What could you
she didn't call us 14 times.
I'm sorry, I don't think you're telling the truth right
Contacted
now.
her 14 times.
I think you are not
Excuse
telling the
me.
truth. So,
Bills are on.
let the
There's
attorney answer to that.
She contacted us frequently to find out the status of the investigation because the public was pressing to know what the release was. That would, if you look at the emails to her, they're checking on when will the report be ready.
There was some.
When-
Right. Oh, there was a lot more than that.
But there were-
That's all I asked, was when the report would be ready, when we would be getting the report. Because people were asking us.
Many more substantive.
There was no, if you totaled what my.
Let's release them, and then everybody, that's why we're gonna vote to release them.
Unbelievable.
Vote.
Let's take a
Yeah,
vote.
since we're, talking about
This is
the
just so
entire
inappropriate.
investigation and what happened, I mean, there was many statements made tonight. Can I ask Carrie Lynn, why did you advise Kim Jones to directly contact or speak to David Carabota on that night, May 22nd at our meeting. There must have been a reason.
Well, thank you for
I'm wondering
asking
why
me, because that's another thing that I think
had
is...
Kim, the victim, approach her proposed or alleged abuser. And I think a lot of people have that question, and maybe you can just get that answered.
Yes, thank you for asking that, because that is something that I think has been misreported also. When Trustee Jones came forward to me, she did not say, I believe I've been sexually harassed, what should I do? If she would have said that, I would tell her I can't advise her, because I'm the township attorney. I can't give advice against the township, my client. I don't represent her, I don't represent Trustee Carabota, I represent the township collectively. She came forward and said she believed that this had happened repeatedly, that she had been touched perhaps inadvertently. What should she do? How should she handle that? I can't advise her to file a sexual harassment lawsuit against the township. So what I said was, if you believe that that's happened and you think it was an inadvertent touching, I think you should talk to Trustee Carabota to call it to attention. And I think you should do that privately, because perhaps he doesn't know that's happening. I believe that was reasonable, sound advice. However, even had she come to me and said, I think I was sexually harassed, many sexual harassment policies actually have a provision where the first step is to have the parties try to talk to each other. Now, whether you like that procedure or not, if someone is actually comfortable going forward to someone believing that maybe they have been sexually harassed, that's one way to maybe address it, because Illinois law and federal law right now does not go so far as to say that if there is an inadvertent, unintentional touching, that constitutes sexual harassment. So the issue that was brought to me originally...
I did forward you.
Right, but the issue that came to me...
She knew it wasn't.
Okay, right, but that wasn't what was originally told to me. So I gave that advice. Everyone knows now that blew up. And then, yes, Trustee Carabota did want an investigation of that. We went into closed session to talk about that. Closed session minutes will be later on here. But I then went to Trustee Jones after an investigation was called for, because if there's going to be an investigation, we need to know what we're investigating. At that point, she said, okay, she believed she had been sexually harassed along with 2 other township employees. One other thing that my law firm has been criticized for is having a conflict of interest. It's very common when there is a complaint that employees have been sexually harassed that the governmental attorney does an investigation to determine whether or not there's liability on behalf of the government. That's what we were investigating. I don't see how that's a conflict of interest. We don't represent any of the individual trustees. We don't have the ability to do that. We were hired to represent the board, or not the board, the township. So that's the context that these things came up. So it's very common for governmental attorneys to protect the interests of their government. That's why we did this investigation. I don't know why people are saying it's, we will defend that investigation as being thorough, impartial, and not, if you read the report, we're not favoring one side or another. So that's another reason why I think you should get the transcripts, because I would like the public to know what everybody said, so they have the same information that my law firm did when they went forward and made that report.
I agree. I'm wholeheartedly in support of being transparent.
Okay, hold on. Vote it, please.
What is the pending motion? The motion is to...
Just right now, the transcripts.
To order and release all the transcripts. And can we just throw in and to post them on the website so we don't have to have another meeting about that?
I want another meeting. I do. I'm setting another meeting. I can have the power to call a special meeting.
Yeah, you can, but for what purpose?
Because I think we need to discuss, because we are going to vote on the emails in a minute, and there's about 300 of them, and I'm not doing it piecemeal. I think that's ridiculous.
If we could get this vote done, can we, it's 10:10, can we get this vote done?
To order the transcripts.
Yes, call on the vote, however.
I'm amending our motion to order the transcripts and to post them on the website.
Second.
The whole reason we're doing it is so that we have transparency, everybody wants them, there is absolutely no reason not to post them.
Second.
Alright, but I'm still gonna be calling a meeting, so you're
All right, so there's a motion to amend, so is there discussion on the motion to amend, or do you want to call the question on it?
Oh, well, wait a second. So the problem with posting is you don't know in the transcripts if somebody gave personal information about their home address or something. That was the problem to begin with. None of you redacted anything.
There weren't home addresses.
Oh, Lord. There were private emails.
There were no home addresses.
No, there were private emails. But I'm saying, you have no idea.
A private email was used for business, so it doesn't mean that it's private anymore.
Okay, would the makers of the amended motion be willing to further amend the motion to direct us to redact any personal or private information that might be in the transcripts if there is any?
No, yes.
I mean, that would be like, I don't believe that there is, but I mean, if there's phone numbers or email addresses or something that under the Freedom of Information Act would be confidential or information. Would that be, all right, then.
I would second that.
That wouldn't be a free for the
Okay,
public.
so then, all right, so you need to vote on, to amend, you need to vote on the amendment.
That wouldn't be added? That would be added, because you can wind up whatever.
Supervisor Moran?
This is
This is the...
The motion to amend.
Correct.
The second motion.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carebola?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
All right, now you need a motion on the amendment.
So right now, we're gonna get technical information.
Ready to call?
Yeah. There's two amendments.
Right, now the motion is amended, all right? And that's-
Oh, I was
that's
voting
second.
no on that. That's okay. Doesn't, no, it's fine, it's fine. So now we're actually voting on the motion? Okay.
Amended motion.
Got it. Okay. I thought you literally just gave the legal opinion that an emotion could be amended without going through it. But go on, Pete, call the roll.
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carebola?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
All right, so, we have pending FOIA requests that are due tomorrow that involve emails and involves 50 pages I have just received today. So, I'm going to have to ask those requesters and also involve the depositions and correspondence. So I'm going to have to ask those requesters to bear with us. This is one of the reasons that I am going to be calling a special meeting so that we actually can go through those to discuss that. I don't think we need a motion to release unless, we can do that now. If we all agree to release all emails.
Can I clarify?
Yeah.
All right, the township has apparently received some freedom of information requests for emails between board members and the law firm. Those normally would be protected by attorney.
And board members in regards to setting up the August 6th.
Okay, well, if they're public records, if it's correspondence between board members, then that is a public record which needs to be disclosed. So there doesn't need to be a board vote on that. So if it's with respect to email between the attorneys and the trustees, then that would have, we would have to determine whether or not they're subject to attorney-client privilege. Right. So I believe what she's saying is she wants, okay, but for the first category, you don't need a legal to release them, they can release them. For the second one, they're not disclosable unless the board votes to release them.
Transparency, that's what we're talking about. Now we're gonna scratch things out of the papers. I try to understand very hard.
Okay. Sorry, if you want to make public comment, you have to do it. Right. So,
is there any action the board needs to take tonight with respect to FOIA requests? Yeah.
I need direction.
Why don't you disclose the ones that are public records and not disclose the ones that are exemptions?
The ones due tomorrow are both.
Right. I concur with our attorney.
So then you want two newspapers to file a complaint?
Well, Well, what would the complaint be, that we're not disclosing exempt information?
But we don't know they're exempt. Because we're not voting on it. I mean, I thought we wanted transparency. Don't we need to see it in camera to see, like, for the second kid? I agree with you and, but frankly, everyone that Claire sent me, like, ultimately got sent by her to you, so it has the language of confidentiality. So I can't really answer the League of Women Voters. But I'm trying to get direction. I'm the FOIA officer.
Could you give us a specific of what?
We have the FOIA request.
The League of Women Voters one we're talking about?
That's one of them, and then there's one from Tom West.
So if there have been communications between board members and attorneys where we're not giving legal advice, that is not subject to the exemption under the Freedom of Information. So that can be produced.
But you just said, okay.
If we're giving legal advice, that's protected by attorney-client information. I'm happy to review the emails tomorrow if it's uncertain which ones should be disclosed and which ones shouldn't. And then if you want further disclosure of ones where we have given an opinion, where perhaps they want to waive the attorney-client privilege, we can have them do that, but those technically would not be subject to disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act, absent a waiver of that privilege.
Which we can't waive by email. That's what I'm trying to do it sort of in an orderly fashion. And everybody's throwing up stumbling blocks. So,
For the most part, I think they're going to be...
there's about 300.
I think most of those are not even part of the attorney.
I agree with you.
Okay, so there's not
is it attorney-client privilege for the attorney to tell, two board members that, like, they should not hold a special meeting, they should treat people how they want to
I
be
think
treated?
this is something you can cover with your FOIA.
No, actually, that's why I always get blasted by this end of the board about FOIAs. I'm trying to do it the right way. I'm trying to get it advanced.
And I believe Carrie Lynn just told you the right way to do it.
And
it is
Dave, I really
It's 10.
don't need your interpretation of what she said or the law. Thanks. So, you're saying we don't need a vote on that?
No, right now, what we have to disclose and what we don't have to disclose are already governed by the Freedom of Information Act.
Okay. So, given that we are the FOIA officers, we will take care of it. And then request a correction.
Is it as far as redactions, because you're talking about that too?
No, that's a different issue.
Okay, right.
That is, once we get transcripts, then I want a special meeting to review whether or not changes should be made or requested to be made to this report. And so I was going to plan that for the week prior to the September 28th board meeting, because in October our agency funding starts, and I'm all in favor of transparency, so I don't see any problem with this. And we have other, we might as well get there now and skip a little bit, because we're on this segment with the approval of the closed session minutes, May 22nd. And I'm not talking about the minutes, I'm talking about that meeting should be made open.
So do you want to table the rest of old business and then the policies and
I do.
procedures? Okay, how about, so is there, all right, you're making a motion?
All right, so requested corrections and redactions, just so you know, I'll hold off on that until we get, what we're requesting. And
I do want to make a comment about redactions, because there's things on I noticed that as far as the actual FOIA requests, we have the complete FOIA requests in our board packet, but online, all the names were redacted and taken out. And
just the private people. So.
And why is that?
Because the private people shouldn't have a chilling effect for FOIAs. So if it's
Is that a chilling effect?
Well, that's what, when we were doing Jennifer Johnson's email, FOIA about FOIAs.
But I don't understand.
Kurt told me that we had to take out, we redacted, I'm sorry, I didn't redact that. So that we had to, there's a public access opinion. So we had to redact email addresses and names of private citizens who FOIA.
Not the names, but the email addresses.
Dan said the names to us.
So if we can make that correction and put those back on the website.
It doesn't bother me if, it's supposed to be,
Let's
I think
get that done.
everybody should read the public access opinion. I can send it around to everybody.
I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware of that. Thank you.
There's one right up. I don't know where we are. Oh, motion to table procedures and policies that have been previously submitted and tabled first under old business. Can I have a second? Second. All right, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay, now, before we get to Highway Commissioner's surplus stuff, I'm going to ask a motion to table proposed policy and procedure for board and staff request of attorney legal time and proposed policy procedure for directing staff to call a special board. Can I have a second?
Second.
Motion second, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay, second, now, we need to address the new business, resolution of the Maine Township Highway Commissioner to sell surplus or dispose of vehicles and equipment number 2018 RV2. I think this is ministerial. And I'm going to make a motion to pass resolution number 2018 RV2 and waive the reading thereof. Is there a second? Motion and second. Can we call the roll? Or wait, I'm sorry, discussion.
Is there anything that Wally would like to add to that?
Well, he's selling stuff.
The items that are going to be disposed of primarily through auction as the year, those John Deere essentially is what we wanted to do, what we've done in the past, to try and make it a profit vehicle where we buy on the internet cheap and we sell higher, and we refurbish it a little bit. And those are the John Deere front-end loaders that we have currently. Even though they're aged, they still can get a decent price if they run. So that's on the list.
So there are 5 vehicles?
Yeah.
that are the John Deere?
Right, and they won't be there long if we put them on auction.
And then the equipment?
The equipment is stuff that we have. They're not going to command as high a price as the other items, but we no longer have a use for them, and they're just sitting there, and we could make some money by getting rid of them. That's essentially every year I've been on the board. We've had this customary resolution, and we've gotten rid of quite a bit of equipment, and it's another source of income.
I'm sure that's why Wally was elected highway commissioner. I really don't have much of an idea of this. I don't know how any of the trustees would, so hopefully we depend on him.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Get rid of surplus equipment.
Of course.
Maybe we would understand what we've had that it's been surplus.
Yeah,
It's like there's a lot
actually,
we hold on to.
Sorry to interrupt you, the township board doesn't even need to vote on this. The highway commissioner can just sign the resolution.
Okay.
Customarily, that all at the moment brought it to the attention.
And again, Walter, I just want to comment, I appreciate that. Call the vote.
If you want to do vote, you can, because the township code says the board or the highway commissioner can.
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes, I voted yes.
And the second was trustee Carabota. All right, trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie? Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Is there a by agreement to waive officials' reports?
I would just like to make one comment.
Okay. Now, then I think everybody's gonna...
When Representative Moylan spoke up through his writings to ask us to resign, I think that was very inappropriate for an elected official to do that to another elected official when we're trying to do our job and due process is given. So if we need to look at things further, that's another issue. But to call for the resignation, I think is really inappropriate when we have a bipartisan board here trying to do our jobs.
We let everybody track what Mrs. Carabota called him a liar. We let everybody have their say. Your meeting on August 6th.
I'm sorry. Susan, you have the floor to make a comment. Are you now taking the floor? Is that?
I thought she was done.
Okay.
Are you related to me?
No, I'm just asking. I don't want to follow.
She finished.
Okay, so you're commenting on that. Okay.
I thought she was done.
Okay.
Pardon me?
I'd like to make a report as well.
Sure, then we'll all make reports. Susan, are you done?
Well, I would also like to say that, you know, it's really, there's nobody that, you know, listening to all the comments here tonight on both sides of, you know, the spectrum, everybody talks about sexual harassment being a very serious issue. We all know that. That's the obvious, right? But there's also, you know, this issue of victim shaming. If somebody's innocent too, and false allegations could be just as serious and maybe as painful as somebody that's been sexually harassed. So if we have two different perspectives here, we have to honor that, you know, there are people that are falsely accused that experience a lot of pain as well. And I've known Dave Carabota for a long time, and I believe that he's innocent. And, you know, I waited for the report, I waited for due process to take place. And I think the thing that was very disconcerting to me was I was in the closed session immediately after this happened on the 22nd of the month and of May. And in that meeting, there was no discussion of sexual harassment. I had to read about it in the paper, in Journal and Topics. That was the first that I became aware of. So the discussion was about touching, and it was not intended to go any further.
What
so,
are you doing?
Are you interrupting?
Yes, what is she doing?
As this unfolded, and then it led to something from touching to swiping to groping, and elected officials throughout the state of Illinois were notified of this, it did become a political thing. And it was not, that piece of it was not even part of the investigation. But why did that happen? It leads me to ask there's a lot of unanswered questions. Why was it that the governor of the state of Illinois was made aware of groping when that was not discussed with us as trustees and as a board? So,
Do you think biased?
pardon?
Do you think you're biased?
Do I think they're biased?
I think three of you guys will sit in a closed meeting. So my question is, how is become a little tiny party with a closed meeting? That's I don't understand. This should be this is getting way out of the proportion, first of all. We all think we're sitting here and discussing for so many months, but shouldn't be already done way long time ago. no party, one party discussing with the other party and the third party when they are close. Should be
No, we have a bipartisan board here.
two people who actually accusing each other should somehow communicate either or. We are as a bystanders, and you, who is close to the human being, because you are trustee, as I know, and Tim is, so you guys been working together. So your voice is kind of, should be a person who actually, like this line, is person who is something close.
This is part of my board report, so.
I know, but
I
that's
just-
part of the problem is the board report's supposed to be about what you've done or the accomplishments.
Well, this is way heavily
Participated
in
in.
everybody's mind and involvement.
But it's
so
not,
I took the opportunity to talk about that, so.
none of the.
I will say my last comment is that I think because there's been accusations, we've been called, our resignation has been called for, all three of us have been asked to resign from Marty Moylan. That's highly inappropriate. And I think we need a thorough investigation of this entire township and any sexual harassment claim that we, you know, if there's anything that's ever been looked at, I mean, we need to go through records, and I don't know what comments like that, where they come from, that it's been swept under the rug, so. I intend to do just that.
This is really board reports.
I'm gonna let her, it's up to the supervisor's discretion. I'm gonna let her ask the question.
Thank you. My one question is,
Can you tell us your name though?
hi, I'm Deanna Williams, I live in Park Ridge. My one question is, if Kim came to you privately and asked you to tell you she was uncomfortable, why did you blow this up like this?
I'm sorry, are you asking me?
Why did you do that?
Since May 22nd till now, at the request of the investigative body that was investigating this case, we were supposed to keep this confidential. I made no comment. I made no comment to a newspaper. I made no comment on the internet, on Facebook, none of it. I sent no letters to the governor, as Kim Jones did. She signed that letter that went to the governor, went all over the state to many people who I know. And I'm getting there, And also I'm now, as everyone knows, on the advice of counsel, I can't speak. Kim Jones knows that. Laura Morass knows that. And they signed that letter anyway. They published it and they sent it out. It was against the advice of our attorneys that were investigating the case. To this day, because now there's a complaint apparently filed to the EEOC, I cannot comment. I am barred. I am kept quiet. They know I can't comment. So they're going to keep it up. The minute that report came out, the first thing that happened is Kim Jones was on Facebook all over the place. Now, that's why I am not avoiding your question. I'm not being hard to you. I'm not avoiding your question. Just that I can't answer it, and I really wish I could.
Well, I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know what you're talking about. I don't write on Facebook.
We have an article, she has given an article to the Journal and Topics every Thursday since May 22nd. I have had 2 to 3 articles on me between her and Marty Moylan every single week. And they know, and Kim Jones knows, that we are not supposed to be talking about this. But you know what? They're doing it. And why are they doing it?
Who said, wait, I'm sorry. I just have to ask something. So in the closed session, which we'll get to, in a minute, so this investigation, none of it started until the following week. And the first depositions were done on June 8th, which is when people were admonished that they should be quiet. There was nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. There was no action in open session whatsoever after that closed session. So don't say that there
Just change the narrative. I never said there was anything in open session. I said to the public, you and Kim signed a letter and sent it out all over to the governor and all that, saying in that letter that I wrote Kim Jones and calling for my resignation.
Max, can we get back to official reports, please?
You never answered the lady's question.
The answer to your question again for the second time is I can't answer you. I wish I could on the advice of counsel.
Okay, so, is that your report? Do you want to make a report?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's
I wanted to say that although it was disappointing that our National Night Out did not go forward, and I would have liked to have participated on the board, from what I can see, you did a really great job. I really also appreciated his letter of August 22 signed by Pete, thanking me for the donated gift certificates, etc., that I gave toward the National Night Out. But the real reason why I did it is because I really believe in the local people in Maine Township and law enforcement in Maine Township having a good relationship. It's very, very important to have. That is the whole purpose of National Night Out. That's why it goes on every year at the same time. Seeing the children here getting their poster, I didn't know how we were going to fix that problem because we didn't have the awards go out to the children. That was handled really, really well. I'm proud of that. We did attend National Night Out though in Niles, and that was also a great night too. And I thank you for all your time and staying with us until 10:40. Fantastic. Thank you for your participation.
I'm going to change my report a little bit. I just want to make sure that Kim Jones knows that I do empathize with her feelings and that I understand what she has experienced. I too have been in situations like hers and had to address them, and they're never comfortable. But it's necessary and required by all of us women and men who experience any kind of sexual harassment. And I just want to let you know that I endorse any of the actions that you have taken and wish to take. And it's your right to do so. And that's all.
Trustee Jones?
I appreciate you saying that, but actions speak louder than words, and up until right now, your actions haven't said that. So, I have no other report, thank you.
I have one item, and the reason I have to say this one item is because the election board needs to know tomorrow. Okay, Gemini School is under construction. They want to hold the November election. They want to use our place as a polling place. Doreen and I, specifically Doreen, researched the amount of people that used this place as a polling place in the last comparable election. It was about 371 people. We would have to close the township, which I'm fine with. And under our personnel, our manual, I'm allowed to do that, but I wanted to get the trustees' input. It's not a vote, because the guy needs to know by tomorrow. I don't care one way or the other. So we have been a polling place in the past. We don't close when it's early election because they trickle in. We do close when they request us to do. So the last time that we were requested to do a general election, I believe was 2014 or 12. There's Gemini precinct number 70. So, thoughts? Is everybody okay with this? See, we put out a list at the beginning of the year of all the days we're closed. So that's why I'm getting a consensus.
Gemini cannot do it because of construction.
Right, Gemini will be closed. They can't do it. So I always think it's a good lesson to teach participation in civics. It's sometimes a mess. We have to, tell the election judges to not mess, but
We're a logical place and the building's conducive to doing it.
so, no, I really did want this board's opinion, and it was too late to put on the agenda, and then I found out it was not something that was required to be going on. So, is everybody okay with it? If I close the township on November 6th and give everybody the holiday? Other than the hallmarkers and poor Mike. All right, so, and that's my report. Pete?
No report.
Wally?
Well, I was disappointed in the vote taken earlier about amending the budget. But, I hope I'm not held accountable. I mean, we're literally butting up against the amount that was allocated for equipment maintenance. I have to repair a truck if it's in use. I don't know what that means in terms of budgetary concerns, how culpable I am, but I'm not going to stop repairing equipment if there's a need to. That's all I essentially wanted, and it was kind of punitive. And I don't want to get into a big debate about this right now, but you allow a capital fund for the township, and everybody claims that we have too much money in the highway department. Why not allow a cushion, I don't even call it a cushion, just allow a road improvement fund to help fund some of the things that on that list that I had shown everybody. So I don't know. We have to function as a governmental unit. We have, it's not that our budget's going to go out of whack, but this thing I do know, and this was a perfect example. There would be, and Mr. Carabotta alluded to earlier, if there's an emergency, there was some flexibility in line items. And certainly when things break down and you have to repair them for use in the community, and you're butting up against what the line item says it should be for the entire year in 6 months, that's an emergency. That's all.
Assessor Ronnie, right?
I can make some comments about this evening also, as Susan Sweeney did, but I think that I would like to throw her comments as inappropriate this evening. I just want to talk a little bit about our office. We've experienced a significant volume of people due to the Cook County Board of Review open filing date for appeals from August 1st through August 30th for Maine Township. On August 30th, closing date, the Board of Review will not be accepting any more appeals if they have not been filed. In preparation for the appeals, I've held 2 outreach program sessions with staff and Commissioner Dan Hadlett for Maine Township residents. This informative presentation instructs residents on the appeal process. The first was held here at Maine Township in our hall, and we had about 80 residents attending. The second was at Des City Hall with about 40 people in attendance. Our property after death event is scheduled for September 13th at 6:30 at Maine Township. It has had overwhelming response. We are filled to capacity with a waiting list. And I'd like to thank Marie and her Maine Streamer staff for helping us get the word out on that. But it looks like a very terrific program. A lot of people encouraged to go and come, and now we're filled up. So hopefully maybe we might do it again. Thank you, that's all.
All right, and attorney's report.
You know what it's saying?
Administrator's report. Okay, now, so, last item is closed session, and excuse, we're not gonna take, well, actually, we might. gonna call to go into closed session for exemption, making a motion to go into closed session for, to review closed session minutes, and the exemption is 5 ILC 2.06, 5 ILCS 120/2C21. I'll give it to you. Can I have a second? Give me a motion and a second. Can you call the, is there any discussion? Aaron, can you
I
call?
do not think that we need to go to closed session for this.
Okay, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Marasco?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
No.
Trustee Sweet?
Now, I will add that I think we're not being fair to taxpayers. They have this in closed session. I think it should be discussed in open session for everybody to hear.
Well, that's what we're gonna vote on. That's exactly what we're doing. So, all right. So motion carried. Let's do this really quick. So there we go. I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn close. Motion to reconvene in open session. Is there a second? Having a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Zulanis, can you call?
Do we say that we made no decisions on, can we comment?
We're getting there.
Okay.
First, we have to reconvene.
Supervisor Marasco?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Okay. With respect to review of, so item number 15, possible approval of closed session minutes of February 12th, 2018. We're going to take that first.
Move to table.
Is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second, is there any, there is no discussion on the table, right? Clerk Zulanis, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Marasco?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
All right, the next one was I requested to have everybody listen to May 22nd, 2018, and to make a vote to release it with the verbatim transcript that I would provide.
Move to table.
All right, and having, is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, so, to finish my thought, before you move on to table it, my thought was that I thought it was important in the interest of transparency to have it released sooner rather than later. Okay, now, with a motion and to table and a second, Clerk Zulanis, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Marasco?
No.
Trustee Jones?
No.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes, and I would like to add that without any verbatim or any kind of notes in front of us, how could we have voted on anything? Couldn't we?
That's why I was asking for a vote.
But I want to make sure people understand that when we went in the room, we saw nothing. So we had nothing to vote on.
She offered, Kitty.
I offered to do.
And several.
Right, but we're correct. She offered to get it.
But
We
we
voted on
No,
something.
I offered to go get it.
Right, to have it
To
printed
have
out.
everybody listen.
You said there were changes that had to be made to it.
There were 3 words that had to be found. And then
Okay, we went to
everybody.
closed session.
Nobody
It should be-
wanted to
We should be
review
prepared
it.
to vote on,
Okay.
coming out. If the.
I
if
can
the
make my
information-
record, I can make my record.
And I too can make a record that the
That's
public
fine, but
should
I
know.
think
We
you
saw
should
nothing.
be accurate.
And it's 11:30.
And that was accurate.
Of course, it's
We saw
definitely accurate. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Get out of your mind.
All right.